All right, so let's talk about distance in landscapes. Okay, and so to share more about that before I get into the demo, I want to talk to you about some of the things that I did in my first landscape class. Okay, and I shared some of these photographs when I put my ad up this morning, talking to you about or showing you the pictures of what I was going to be doing. Okay, so I want you to see, for example, let me take this out of the sleeve because it's creating a glare. I wasn't sure if the light would cause a problem. Okay, so this is a really good example of how to show things that are far away and things that are coming towards you in terms of color and level of detail. Okay, and that's usually the two biggest elements that you can tweak or manage as you're creating a landscape to give that perspective of things far away versus things close up to you. So notice here the hills coming down, and the darker colors, the brighter or darker colors are more towards the front. And as you get further away through the valley here, the colors are much more muted and pale, and there's less detail. Okay, less detail in the flowers. It's really more just splashes of color. There's no actual strokes that you can make out a particular element. You can't see a petal from one petal from the other there. It's more just laying on different color values to get those flowers to look like they're further away. Okay. And if you look at photographs, if you look at anything where you've got a field or a valley or something, the only things that you can really make out that have detail and texture and definition are the things that are closest to you. The further away you get, the less defined and the less apparent they are. Okay. So notice that there's also some lightening of the colors too. It's the same color as this red and that red, but we've lightened them slightly with touches of yellow or orange or white. All right. Now, the one color that you don't want to use in the background to push things away is white, solid white. Okay. Blending white with colors or laying it on in a thin layer like a vapor will help push things further back. But actual white solid like this might be here is going to bring things forward. Okay, the brighter and the more white things are, the more forward or towards the front they will come. Okay, and detail is another thing. So I was talking about how these are just little splashes of color versus the ones in front that are more detailed and actually have defined petals. Okay, so that's going to bring those forward, and size will make a difference too. So for example, we have here a field of wildflowers, and you can actually see the stems and see the individual petal strokes, right? Versus this farther away, all you can really make out is colors, a little bit of shape and colors. Okay, so that has a lot to do with it. You can also make things thinner. We use medium to thin our paint to make it a little more transparent or less up front and in your face. So we use that as well. Now, the other thing, when you're looking at things like trees or tree lines in the distance, this also will show you that from that perspective. Okay, so here we have a tree that has a little bit of detail, no foliage on it, but you can't really make out darker light shadows or not. It's really just kind of a flat color. It's in the distance. Here we have some twigs, right, of probably winter or late fall, where you're just getting that in the background, layers of crisscrossing branches. Then you can start putting on foliage where you're not seeing each leaf, but you're seeing varying shades of color on the tree. All right, so that would be a tree in the distance, probably mid distance versus far away. And then palm trees are a really good example that are easy to do, because palm trees far away are really just this cluster of these little, what look like twigs, but they're the trunks. And then each frond is really just a single stroke, right? And they look small and they're far away. Versus this, where it's up close, you can actually make out the trunk and the individual leaves on the frond, etc. Okay. Another example would be this evergreen, where you're seeing light and dark shading, and you're seeing some of the trunk appearing through the middle, versus this one where it's far away and you're really just getting the shape and you see that it's green. Okay. So there's lots of different ways that you can show distance, and I'm going to share with you how to get that to look that way on a simple landscape. I'm going to show you that hillside. I'm going to add a few things to it so you can see some of those techniques. Okay, so let me turn this way. All right, and I'm going to put out some colors here. I've got some sap green, as always, and some citrus. All right, so I put out some bark brown, apple red, daffodil yellow, just little bits of that. I've got wicker white. All right, and then I'm going to put out some floating medium. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and put it right here on my plate. All right, so the first thing we want to do is kind of set our horizon so that we know where the lay of our land. Okay, so I'm going to take my 3/4 flat and excuse me, let me get down here a little better. Oop, a little too close. Okay, right there. And I'm going to load this with medium. All right, and I'm going to get some citrus green on both sides of my brush with medium, so it's thin. All right, and I'm going to pick up just a tiny bit of sap green on the chisel edge. Okay, so I don't want to make this too dark. All right, so the first thing I want to do, I'm going to put the dark edge to the right, and I'm going to come down and create this slope like that. Okay, and then I can fill that in, going straight. These are nice smooth strokes on the flat of the brush, not on the chisel. More medium. I'm on paper here, so I need lots of medium to help that move. Okay. Now, right in here is where my valley is going to be. And then this is going to come forward and kind of flatten out. All right. Now I'm going to come back and get more medium and those same colors. And I'm going to do this other hill that's going to come in front of the first one. Let me bring that over a little more till it touches. There we go. All right, so this is going to be closer to us, whereas that's going to go in the back there. Okay. There we go. And that's going to kind of disappear back there. So we're going to come in front and sweep along. So we've created this little valley right in here. And now what I'm going to do is I want to lighten this because right now this is all, let me finish this up first though. So this is my hill coming forward. Very basic rolling hill landscape. Okay. Paper is very unforgiving. Once you get a dark streak in there, it won't let go of it. So I'm going to come in with just a little bit of white and go over some of those to smooth them out. There we go. Okay, so we've got our shape and we've got this little valley coming forward, and it's going to kind of come through here and go off to the right. But I want to lighten this back there because that's too dark for it to be in the back. You can kind of see how it's this dark line here is pulling that forward. So I'm going to take some more medium and I'm going to side load some of this daffodil yellow with the citrus green. Okay, and we're going to come right through here. And not enough yellow. I got too much citrus green, so I'm going to wipe that off. Come back with the yellow. There we go. Okay, and sweep that forward. And remember I said white will bring things forward, but I want it to blend with this lighter color back here, this yellow, and push this area right here back. So I'm going to get just a touch of wicker white on my chisel edge of my brush, and I'm going to come right in here and lighten that area up. Now if I've got to lay it in there a little bit more and work it in, that's good. There we go. So see how that pushed this back further, and then we go up the hill? That comes forward a little bit. Now see how that pushed that back, pushed this back, and brought this forward, just with that little bit of softening with the white in there with the green. Okay, so we don't want a lot of darkened shadows necessarily in things like that we want to push back. That it depends on the colors that you have in the foreground. All right, now I can come in with more of my darker green, and I can create a little more interest and texture in this front hill here, and bring this forward even more. You just don't want to make it all one color and flat, okay? So you got to have little bits of light. I'm going to grab some white and some yellow right in here and then pull this out this way. All right, so right here in this front is really where I'm closest to. This is where I want to start adding some texture. So I can pick up on my corner of my brush some sap green and start moving this around a little bit and creating some movement in this area. Or a better way to do it is I can come in with my rake brush, get a little bit of medium on there. I already got it damp, but I'm going to pick up some sap green on one side and some citrus on the other. And I'm on the chisel edge. Let me come down so you can see this a little better. On the chisel edge, I can, my paper's a little wavy here, but I can streak up bits of grass, okay? And I'm not going for exact detail in a design like this, but I do want more detail in the front. There we go. So see how that's kind of streaking up? You can add a little bit of the lighter green, or you can go for a little touch of white now because you're in the foreground, and that white's going to blend with the greens a little bit and brighten those up. Okay, so you're just grabbing each of those colors or all together. All right, just don't make them too high. All right, and then you can get that going. You can also come in on the chisel edge of the brush and pull up some taller stems here and there, and you could put wildflowers on those. But you're not going to put that too much back in here. You can do a little bit of detail. I hate that this is warping like this, but some medium. Okay, and maybe bring that hill forward just a little bit. A little more medium with some sap green. And add some texture to this hill, light and dark spots. So maybe you put in some lighter green on the face of it. You get some thin citrus right in here. Lighter green on the face of it, darker green as it goes back up that way. Okay, so you're just working with this and not letting it intimidate you. It's just paint. This is an art journal. Little bits of yellow and white in here, bringing that back out so that if I lost it, I can put it back. Okay, so now what I want to do, a couple of things. I want to show you how I got those flowers in the back, but before I do that, let's add some trees maybe peeping up around the back side of this. So I've got my 12 flat. I'm going to get that damp. I'm going to load it with floating medium again, and I'm going to get some bark brown right here with that medium. Okay, you'll notice I'm not adding any white or anything to it because they're in the distance. I don't have to have that kind of detail, but maybe there's some trees poking up here, coming up over the hill. All right. You can do it with the flat brush. And they don't have to be very well done. They're very thin. Notice how thin that color is. It's almost like watercolor because of the medium. Okay. And I added some sap green in there too. And if my hand's getting in the way, it doesn't look like it. All right, so getting some trunk and branches and things in here, some green and some brown, but it's all thin. Okay, and it's all going to be in the background. And then I might just get a little lower here as it's going further away. All chisel edge pulling up. Very simple. Nothing pretty yet, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this. I wiped off my brush. I'm going to go back to this brush with the medium. I'm going to get a little bit of sap green. Oops, a little bit of sap green on the one edge, one corner, and I'm going to smash my brush. Can you see I'm smashing it on the chisel? Right, so I'm pushing it out almost like a scruffy. And then I'm going to get a little bit of the light green on the other corner, and we're making this smashing, but it's very thin. Can you see how thin that is because of the medium? All right, so now with the brush with the light corner up, I can come out here and smash right over those brown trunks, and coming up. And you'll notice because it's so thin that the trunks are going to show right through. I can pick up a little more of the darker green, right, and give this down here a little bit darker element, right? And then I could even come forward now. I could pick up some yellow on that light green corner and more of the citrus, and maybe just a touch of the bark brown on that citrus corner. And I can start to come in here with some shrubs in front of there. Get a little bit of the sap green on the bottom corner, still very thin with the medium. Okay, and come right up in front of, and excuse me, into this valley. Sorry. So when you're doing that though, you have to tap it out. You can even wipe the brush off now and just soften this front edge. And then sweep it to push it back. See there? So you've started to create this little thicket of bushes, etc. Now I can start to come forward. A little more of that. I got medium on my brush, a little more of the sap, a little more of the citrus. And now I'm going to get white on the light green edge. And watch what's going to happen. Right here in the front of that, we're going to start to bring these bushes forward. A little more of the sap. And then white. Okay, so you're creating more texture now and more depth because of the change in color and bringing it forward. All right, now before I do it on the paper, I want to do it on my plate right here. I want to smash this out and we can get bigger. And then come get some yellow on that top corner and start to bring this forward. Okay, then you can streak up some of that grass and things in front. Now we've got a hard edge over here that we want to kind of work into this valley. So you have to smash and turn your brush so it comes across like this. And then sweep, wipe off your brush, sweep and bring everything together. Okay, so these are just examples. This is just try this, try that, different things you can do. All right, then let it set up a little bit. You can come back in with little bits of white or even some color. Okay, and add some more to that. So this isn't beautiful. This is just a trial of different things, and we're going to add more to it. I'm not done yet, okay? And I'm adding more of these little grass blades and strokes, etc. on the chisel edge of this brush. You can turn the brush to the horizontal in front of that and flick it up, and that will kind of soften that front edge and hide some of the start points of those stems that you just put in there. You can smash it through here as well. All right, but next thing I want to do now is take my 6 flat and we're going to start to lay in this field of flowers. So I'm going to get yellow with some white on my 6 flat, blend the colors together, not with the red yet because white will turn the red pink. Okay, so what we're going to do here is that yellow, need more yellow because that white turned it to white. We're going to just slip slap the corner coming across. You're going across left to right, coming forward. Okay, now you can pick up a touch of the red and start to lay that in there, and what's in there with the white will mute it but not turn it pink so much. Okay, so it's very faint and it disappears back there behind that hill. All right, it can come up into this area here. You can start to add a little more of the darker red. right? So I just pick it up on the corner and lay it down. I'm not creating any petal shapes yet. A little more yellow, just yellow, no white, as I'm coming forward, okay? Now I can be more deliberate with my strokes and actually lay in some petal pieces here, but I'm still not forming flowers, okay? You can even have this coming down one of the hillsides too, and coming up into this little cluster of bushes. All right, now here in the forefront, this is where I'm actually going to start forming actual flowers. So I'm going to come on my 6 flat right here, pick up the apple red, and I'm going to stroke some petals. So now I'm going to actually create the shape of a flower. Oops, right there. And maybe back behind it, because that's very distinct. Maybe I start to do a few, but not quite so big. Okay, so see the different size scale? Okay. Touches of the red, touches of the yellow. Now over here where it's dark, I might put in more yellow to bring that forward a little bit. There we go. Okay, and then maybe right here now we start to put some on the stems. You can have them way up here. Okay, so you can start to get a feel for the scale based on how far away those little spots of color are, right? And not real bright. I muted both the yellow and the red. And then as it came forward, you get more specific and distinct with your strokes. Okay, now the last thing you want to do is centers of flowers. Centers of flowers tend to not be very visible in way back in here, but as you come forward, maybe now you start to put in, I've just grabbed some sap green on the corner of my brush, maybe now you start to put in actual flower centers in these ones that are more stroked, okay? And you might do a few back there, but as you go back this way, they're not going to be there. They're not going to be visible. All right. Now, once this is dry, if you wanted to add a little bit of highlight, I cleaned that brush off. I can come in with just a touch of white. A little touch of white. And streak that over the petals. Now that didn't do what I wanted it to do. So let's put that red back over it. But it did brighten up that color a little bit. I just don't want it to be pink. There we go. Just a little on the side. How's that? We'll just side stroke a little bit and add a little highlight to one side of the petal. Okay, so then if you wanted to get more specific with trees, you know, you could do all kinds of stuff up in here. If this is starting to not look the way you wanted it, like maybe you wanted a little more foliage up on those trees, you can come back now with, once it's dry, and see if you liked it or not. But you can come back with some more of that thin color and maybe pounce a little more up in there. There we go. But it's very thin in the background. Looks like it's disappearing over the hill. You can do that here as well. You can even slip slap a little bit to give the look of taller trees with foliage in the distance. Okay, so that is our demo for tonight. I hope that that helps you with all the different things that you can do texture wise. Now you don't have to do the smashing with the flat. you can always do it with the scruffy if that's something you prefer, right? So if I went and took my scruffy here and I double loaded it with the 2 greens and then some white, I might come in here and get better results. And look at that. I don't have to restroke or redo the whole thing. I can just tuck those right in there around behind those flowers, and that will spruce that right up. And then if I want to add more back here with the yellow and the darker green, I can do that, and it's going to sit nicely on top of all that without it looking too forced, okay? And then you could just sweep it up the hill and let it run off. All right, so lots of different ways to get that look. Real quick, for the palm trees, I took my script liner, and you got some inky, or you can use the medium. In this case, the inky or the better for it to be faint and far away. But you're going to just do real quick curved strokes with the tip of that brush, okay? Then you're going to come in and get inky citrus. Let me get some water. Got my medium running all over. This is why I don't like doing that. With a little bit of white to lighten this up, but it needs to be inky, thin. Get some medium in here, see if that helps. All right, and so at the top of each of these, maybe a tiny bit of sap in there. Okay, so at the top of each of these, you're just going to do real quick that umbrella shape. See there? And from a distance, those are going to look like palm trees. And you don't have to be perfect with them. I did this on my Hawaiian beach landscape class. So see the difference? See how quickly you can get those on there? And you can even do some other types of foliage underneath here very quickly, okay? So have fun with that. Give it a try. Get your art journal out and try different things. Write down what you did so you remember how you got there, and enjoy yourself. Be creative. Give yourself that break. Try something different. Give one of my landscape classes a try and see if you've never done one before. See if it's something that you might find appeals to you, right? I know a lot of you that are watching tonight have taken those classes and really enjoyed them, and I've really enjoyed teaching them and being with all of you. And hopefully, if you haven't done it, you give it a try and you'll enjoy it.